Welcome to the City of Water. This city has many names, including the Queen of the Adriatic, the City of Canals, the Floating City, and more. And after visiting, we can understand just about every one of them. This is Venice. Venice is a city in northern Italy, located on the swampy plains that make up the Adriatic coast just south of the Italian Alps. With the majority of its over 250,000 inhabitants living on the mainland, and about 55,000 people living among the 118 small islands connected by over 400 bridges, the pieces of the old settlement. This city is one that's had a very rich and illustrious history, being the capital of the Republic of Venice for over 1,000 years and becoming one of the first true international financial centers. The importance of the city started in the 9th century and peaked around the 14th century. However, this rich history can still be seen in much of the architecture today. We spent some time here in the summer, and it was absolutely beautiful, if not a little bit hot for us. We took a bus for about 10 minutes from our hotel, crossing the massive 4-kilometer-long bridge that connects the mainland to the island. This bridge also contains railway tracks that lead into the Venice-St. Lucia station, but if you don't want to take the train or the bus, you can always take the water taxi from various spots around town, even the airport. All of the buses stop near the Piazzale Roma, and from here you can go just about any direction into this beautiful city. The very first thing we noticed about this place was the sheer volume of people and boats. It was crowded. Upon reaching the Grand Canal, which is the largest waterway that snakes through the city, we could not believe the terrible chop on the water. With all the boats going every which way, including water taxis, water buses, police boats, and private boats, none of which were obeying any no-wake rules, it's surprising that the city hasn't been completely eroded to nothing. The next thing we noticed were how stunning and impressive all of the buildings here were. Most of Venice's buildings are in the Gothic style, and it's something that's similar yet very different from many of the other cities that we've seen in Italy. All of the straight lines and beautiful archways, combined with the numerous zigzag alleyways, make the streets of the city appear to be in ordered chaos. We walked down one of the alleyways leading along the canal until we came to the Church of Saints Jeremiah and Lucia, an 18th century Catholic church on a quaint little square. We walked back and started to make our way south. Ultimately, our goal was to walk through Venice until we arrived at the famed Piazza San Marco, passing interesting sights along the way. We walked by the Church of San Simeon Piccolo and passed near several small canals filled with private boats and gondolas. Even though the gondola drivers were wearing their famous striped shirts, we didn't hear any singing. I guess the riders need to pay extra for that. We passed by another beautiful Greek and Baroque-inspired church until we found ourselves walking through the alleys of a university. It had a huge, beautiful courtyard, but then we found ourselves in a bit of a pickle. Okay, we're in some sort of university, I think, and we can't find our way out. None of these ways are out. It's like a maze. We're never getting out of here alive. I think we found a way. Well, that's apparently where we were, although I don't know. It was like the Matrix in there. There was no way out.
Yeah, we thought we could just pass through it, but...
Yeah, apparently not.
Yeah.
We continued on along the canal, closely following our GPS so we didn't get lost in this absolute maze of a city. Eventually, we came upon the Scuola Grande di San Rocco, a beautiful 15th century building in the center of the city. This building has been famous for years, but now it's known for hosting a vast collection of Tintoretto paintings, who was commissioned for the paintings in 1564. Directly across from this beautiful art museum is one of the biggest attractions in the central city, the Leonardo da Vinci Museum. This museum plays host to a number of different reproductions of da Vinci's masterpieces, including several of his inventions and drawings. This museum is unique, hosting only reproductions with the intent to help people understand the techniques in his approach to art, rather than just displaying the art itself. The museum uses technology and models that can help visitors get up close and personal, appreciating the master's works without having to worry too much about security. We think that this is a great approach for helping people to learn about these works. And honestly, it's much more interesting than just walking through a gallery with art hanging on the walls. Directly next to the museums is the Frari, officially named the Basilica di Santa Maria Gloriosa dei Frari. This church is notable as it's one of the largest churches in the city. It's also one of the only churches left that still retains its Venetian Gothic appearance. Not only that, but this brick church is extremely old, with construction starting in 1250. This church is beautiful in its simplicity, and it looks extremely old when compared to many of the newer buildings surrounding it. Walking around this city, it's nearly impossible to go more than a few minutes without bumping into a beautiful building, a wide open courtyard, or a beautiful canal that you just have to stop and take a picture of. We found that just walking through this city was a great enough experience, and the journey was just as interesting as the destination. We walked by another relic of the past, San Silvestro, another church that was originally built in the 12th century and consecrated in the 15th century. This church also serves as a museum, with a significant number of paintings from many different artists. In fact, over the years, the church has actually sold some of these paintings to galleries to help rebuild and restore the building. One of these paintings was the Adoration of the Magi, painted in 1573. It was actually sold to the National Gallery in London in 1855 to help refinance the rebuilding of part of the church. Finally, we made it to one of the most picturesque places in the city, the Rialto Bridge. But before we cross this bridge, please give us a like and subscribe if you like what we're doing with this channel. Every little bit helps. The Rialto Bridge is massive, and it spans over the Grand Canal. On this bridge, there are 3 pedestrian walkways, 2 on each side and 1 in the center, which are all divided by a number of shops and vendor stalls. It was cool to be on this bridge and watch the boats cruise by below, but the huge crowds made us want to quickly make our way to the other side. We continued down a few dark and narrow alleyways off the beaten path until we burst out into the light in the Piazza San Marco. This plaza is absolutely iconic, and it's enormous. This square has served as a gathering place and a tourist attraction for many centuries, and it's surrounded by museums, a national library, the Doge's Palace, and St. Mark's Basilica. Of course, in the middle of the square is the largest and most recognized bell tower in the entire city, St. Mark's. The buildings here are incredible. They are not only extremely large and picturesque, but the detail and building style is something that's different from many of the other buildings in the city. There are also mosaics painted on the outside of many of these buildings, giving color to an otherwise colorless facade. From one side of the square, you can peer out over the water. It really is a beautiful place to be. From here, we made our way back into the alleyways, heading under the large Renaissance clock tower building, which was created in 1499, showing a decorated clock face, not only with time, but astrological symbols as well. We were getting a bit peckish, so we decided to find a restaurant to get something to eat. Had to stop, get some water and pizza, and a Coke. Having a little pizza in Italy. After getting a bite to eat, we started heading back towards the bus stop, taking in all the sights on the way. On the way, we walked through the Church of San Giovanni the Evangelist, where we found a huge golden crown of thorns. This art exhibit was only temporary, but definitely impactful. It makes sense that this was here too, because this building is actually a museum that purports to hold part of the true cross. We really enjoyed our time in Venice, and it was much better than we thought it would be. We had heard horror stories of constant flooding, smelly canals, and pollution as far as you could see. While it was true that the water wasn't necessarily clear, and there's excessive tourism going on here, and far too much activity from the boats on the water, the city itself was beautiful. Also, we think that you can avoid much of this flooding if you go there during the dry season, which seemed pretty obvious to us. Going in the summer might be a bit hotter, but it's definitely worth it if you want to get the most out of this beautiful ancient city. Thanks for watching this video. We'll see you in the next one.